All right, I've unbuttoned the shirt, I've loosened the tie. My duties at NBC Sports Bay Area pretty much wrapped up, although I'm going to be on the Xfinity show after Sunday Night Football, but was in the studio for pre and post game show. And my takeaways from this game was that it really looked like this was the kind of game that the 49ers would have lost last season. It was not perfect. They did not play well in certain aspects of the game. Defensively, they darn near played well from start to finish. They gave up that one touchdown drive fairly early in, but I think the young guys really stepped up. I'm thinking about D. Winters played very well. I thought that Marquise Siegel getting his first start in the NFL in his debut game played very well. Had a fumble recovery in this game on a Sam Okawanu forced fumble. That ended up being a big play. After a rough start, I thought Upton Stout came through. It was very clear that Seattle wanted to press the issue, wanted to go after him, and he gave up some plays early, including a pass interference penalty in the end zone. But I thought all in all, he played well, including a nice pass breakup late in the game. Offense, kind of up and down. I think, Brock Purdy has played better. He did have the 2 touchdown passes, so that was what the 49ers needed, especially that second one, right time to come through with that. But I thought he took some chances he shouldn't have taken, made some ill-advised throws, throwing into coverage, a couple of interceptions. He's got to limit those. But this was a game about resilience for the 49ers because so much went wrong, including Jake Moody missing a 27-yard field goal, something that NFL kickers should never do. Having another short field goal attempt blocked. That wasn't necessarily his fault, although it did look like the ball came out low, but I don't know that any kicker could have avoided having that thing blocked because of how the left side of the 49ers protection caved in and enabled Seattle to get in there and block that. So there was a lot that went wrong in this game, but including George Kittle's injury. George Kittle got off to a great start. 49ers first drive of the game, they just put it all together, went down the field and scored. Kittle, 5-yard touchdown reception. But then when he leaves the game with a hamstring injury, and the 49ers immediately ruled him out of that game with the hamstring injury, you just had to go, well, they're not going to get much from the tight end position in the passing game because that's not Luke Farrell's game. He's a blocking specialist. And Jake Tonjes is somebody who hadn't caught a pass since he was at the University of California. And in a 4-year career at Cal, he only had 4 touchdown catches there. So just wipe out the tight end position as being a factor in the 49ers offense. But lo and behold, on a critical 4th down, it was Luke Farrell who came through with the catch. And then Jake Tonjes, we cannot overstate how impressive of a play that was to score the winning touchdown, because I'm not sure that Brock Purdy should have thrown that pass. In fact, that's the classic no, yes kind of play when he threw it up there. And Reek Woolen, the defensive back for Seattle, I mean, he had to have stars in his eyes knowing that he was going to pick off Brock Purdy in the end zone and perhaps seal that win for Seattle. But instead, Jake Tonjes made that move to kind of come around Woolen's right side, and he got both hands on the ball and just ripped it away for the 4-yard touchdown. So huge performance by Jake Tonjes, and also a timely performance by Luke Farrell on that 4th down. So, those were some of the key elements of this game for the 49ers. I talked about the defensive side where the rookies played well, and just it's kind of funny. I mean, we've been talking about the 49ers defensive linemen, the rookies there, Michael Williams, Alfred Collins, CJ West. Yes, those guys played, but it wasn't a huge impact that they made in this game. Both Michael Williams and Alfred Collins had just an assisted tackle apiece. But it was those defensive backs. It was Siegel and it was Upton Stout. But for the 49ers, when they needed somebody to close the game, of course, they turned to Nick Bosa. And he came through in a big way. in this game as Seattle was moving down the field. They had some opportunities there to potentially score the winning points and rip the 49ers' hearts out like they did last year, like Geno Smith did last year with the night at Levi Stadium. But Nick Bosa, when they needed him most, the quarterback sack, the fumble that was forced, and the fumble recovery to seal the game. So Nick Bosa comes through when the 49ers needed him most. All right, so some injury concerns. I mentioned Kittle, hamstring. When's he going to be available? Boy, I think it's a tough ask to think that he'll be back next week in New Orleans. I don't know that they need him next week in New Orleans. That's not a great team the 49ers would be facing. Juwan Jennings has a shoulder situation, and now the 49ers could revisit signing Kendrick Bourne, who remained unsigned last week after visits to Santa Clara to visit with the 49ers and also Washington. So those are the two major issues right now. We talked a lot about Christian McCaffrey leading up to this game after he shows up on the injury report on Thursday. But Christian McCaffrey was largely Christian McCaffrey. You knew if he played, the 49ers weren't going to baby him. He was going to get out there and he was going to get his touches. 49ers ran 72 offensive plays in this game. Christian McCaffrey touched the ball 31 of those times, 22 carries, 69 yards, 9 receptions, 73 yards. And the yards per carry for the 49ers, not real impressive, only 3.3 yards per carry. But the 49ers ran it effectively in that they did have 36 rushing attempts. And by having so many rushing attempts, the 49ers were able to control the clock, and that was a big thing in this game. 49ers had the ball almost 16 minutes longer than the Seahawks did. The Seahawks went in with the same game plan. They wanted to run the ball, but they weren't as effective. Only 26 running attempts for them. 49ers only, like I said, only averaged 3.3 yards per carry, but Seattle only averaged 3.2 yards per carry. 49ers hold Sam Darnold to only 150 yards passing. Brian Robinson probably played more than I thought he would, but just because of the volume of plays the 49ers had, there were actually times where Christian McCaffrey asked to come out of the game because he was winded. Brian Robinson, 9 carries, 33 yards. That could be kind of the baseline for him. I'm not saying he's going to have 9 carries every game for the 49ers, but now they can just build on what he knows about the system, and they can go from there. Offensively, McCaffrey also a big factor in the passing game, like I said, but Ricky Pearsall came through with a big game. He really carried over the momentum from last season when he had those 2 really good games to finish off the year, the one game against Detroit on the Monday night and then the last game against Arizona. And then the offseason program, he and Brock Purdy were clicking. They met up in Jacksonville and ran some routes and all that stuff. And then in training camp, Ricky Pearsall was very clearly the 49ers' top receiver. And on this day, a very strong showing for him. Only 4 catches, but for 108 yards, including that 45-yarder on a double move that he set up nicely. Brock Purdy dropped it in the bucket for him. And so the 49ers moved down the field. And then, of course, the Jake Tonjes play that kind of saved the 49ers bacon, saved Brock Purdy from having, what could have been a bad game. Instead, it was a good game. Why was it a good game? Because the 49ers won. They won for the 4th time in a row up in Seattle. All 4 times Brock Purdy has been up there. So, yeah, it was a very un-2024 game for the 49ers. Last year, they lost these kinds of games. They lost them early. They lost them often. They lost in Minnesota against the LA Rams, letting a big league get away there. They lost a similar game or similar games like this in Levi Stadium against Arizona and Seattle. So this was a big one for the 49ers. Now, the negative part of this, of course, a lot of positives because they won. They showed the resiliency, all that. But Jake Moody, what are they going to do with him? And Kyle Shanahan said after the game that there was no question he was going to remain as a kicker. But just watching his body language on the sideline makes me wonder if the 49ers aren't going to give Greg Joseph a call. I just don't see the confidence that Jake Moody has in himself. I don't see the confidence that anybody else has in Jake Moody. So we'll see where it goes from here. But bottom line is the 49ers played an imperfect game. There is plenty for them to clean up as they move forward into week 2, but they get the win. And in what I would consider an ultra competitive NFC West, where the Rams, the Cardinals, the Seahawks, the 49ers, I think they're all pretty evenly matched. Any win is a big win. Any time that you can pull off a victory like this when it wasn't perfect and they didn't play well in every phase, that's a huge win. So 49ers come home with a 1-0 record, and the next game up in against the New Orleans Saints, against probably a really bad team, one of the worst teams in the NFL, I would think. They open the season, or they open the season on Sunday with a loss at home to the Arizona Cardinals. What was the final score of that game as I'm looking it up? So it's 20-13 that the Cardinals beat the Saints in that one. Spencer Rattler, 27 of 46, 214 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. So that's the team the 49ers are facing next. And so George Kittle, what's his status? John Jennings, what's his status? Do the 49ers need to go out and get anybody? Can they get by with the tight ends they have? Maybe Braden Willis comes up from the practice squad. So those are some of the things the 49ers will certainly be focusing in on as they get back to work after this 17-13 victory over the Seahawks. So thanks for watching this video, and that is it for now.